For those of you with super short attention spans, there is a table of contents with timestamps down below in the video description. DJI just released their new digital HD FPV system, and everybody's asking me, Joshua, when are you going to make content about it? Today. But I'm not going to do like a side-by-side video comparison or a range check or an unboxing. Now, all those other channels have already done that, and I don't feel the... Okay, the truth is that DJI didn't send me a review copy. And so that means that I won't actually get... I had to just buy it on release day, and I won't actually get it till Monday. So I can't do any of that stuff, but that's okay, because I've got answers to a bunch of questions that you guys are asking on social media. I'm going to put all the answers in one place. I'm going to clear up a bunch of misconceptions that a bunch of you guys have. And I'm going to tell you, I think the biggest reason why you maybe shouldn't get this, that I think a lot of other people are missing. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. It's so weird when I put it at the end. I usually do it at the beginning, but I've been experimenting with putting it at the end. What do you guys think? You like it in the opening? Or you like it at the end? Anyway, on with the video. Let's start the video with the good stuff, and then we'll transition at the middle of the video to the misconceptions, and then we'll close with maybe the reason that you might not want to buy it. And the good stuff is that this is... no kidding, this is the best digital HD system I've ever flown. And I've flown Connex ProSight, I've flown FPV Blue, I've flown the R2 Tech Next G1 system. A lot of you guys have never even heard of that one. Every single one of those other systems disappointed me in some annoying way. The best one was the Connex ProSight. And the biggest complaint I had about the Connex ProSight was that when you flew behind an obstacle, the picture would unexpectedly like freeze up, lock up, or smear, kind of like when your satellite dish in a rainstorm comes through. No, this was all totally unacceptable to me, because the bottom line is I need to be able to keep the quad in the air. And I don't care how beautifully high definition the video is if while I'm flying it suddenly distracts me and I crash the quad. The DJI FPV system has perfectly dealt with the issue of signal degradation. As the signal gets weaker, the picture gets lower and lower definition. It gets blockier, kind of like watching YouTube at 320p versus 1080p. But it handles it in a very graceful way that never distracts from the act of flying the quad. As some of you are wondering right now, how could I possibly know that? Didn't I say I don't own the system yet? No, that's true. My personal system isn't going to get here till Monday, but I do know people in the industry, and I have gotten a chance to get some stick time on this system, and that's what I'm talking about. I would say that the DJI system, when it gets to a signal strength of about 2 bars, has about the same image fidelity as a typical standard definition image. It looks kind of blurry, but our analog systems look kind of blurry. And when it's at 4 bars, it looks just amazing. The image from the camera is also quite good. This was another issue I had with the ProSight system, although that was a long time ago, and ProSight has improved their camera since then. The DJI camera, I don't know if it is going to replace a GoPro for every pilot. If you're Johnny FPV, you are probably going to keep running your GoPro Hero, because it just gives you a level of image quality and a level of post-processing ability that really nothing else gives. But for many, many pilots, you're just going to give up your GoPro and you're going to be able to use the image from the DJI system out of the box, and you're going to be perfectly happy with it. Latency is one of the biggest questions that people ask about when we talk about digital HD systems. It has plagued other systems, and many of these other systems claim to have good latency, and then you find out that it's only on the best possible day under the best possible conditions. In reality, the latency of these other systems is often higher than you would want. The DJI system, like, obviously I didn't put it on a lab bench. I don't even have the equipment that you would need to verify latency. All I can tell you is that while I was flying it, I never once, not even when the signal was getting weak, I never once felt, oh, I feel the latency. Now, I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm not some 14-year-old top racing pilot, Alex Vanover, 3 millisecond latency. So I may not be the best person to judge latency, but I can tell you that for the average flyer like me, latency is simply a non-issue. Don't worry about the paper numbers. the fact is that while I was flying it, it never bothered me. The next thing people are curious about the DJI system is the price. And the price of the system is substantial, but depending on what your standard is for what else you might be buying instead, it may not be as substantial as you might think. So I've created this fascinating spreadsheet. Joshua from the future here. Hey, Joshua in the past was so busy digging into his fascinating spreadsheet that he forgot to mention to you guys that there are links to these products down in the video description. If you have decided that you want to buy one of these systems, you can do it by using those affiliate links. That's one way to support the channel. And to be honest with you, you didn't test the unit. He doesn't even have the unit. He just made this video talking about all this stuff, and he expected you to click an affiliate link and give him all that sweet commission on these big expensive purchases. How presumptuous of him. Nevertheless, they're there. If you feel like using them, you can use them. If you don't feel like using them, you don't have to. Bye. And this spreadsheet compares the price of various setups. A DJI system with the DJI controller, a DJI system with Crossfire controller, a DJI system with 2.4 gigahertz control. And some of you are a little surprised right now because there is a misconception out there that the DJI system requires you to use the DJI controller. And many people are like, well, I like my controller, or I like Crossfire. You do not have to use the DJI controller with the DJI system. If you want to use the DJI Digital Link to control the quad, then you have to use the DJI controller. But if you prefer Crossfire, you can go with Crossfire. If you prefer 2.4 gig, you just don't hook up that wire to your flight controller and you can keep using your existing system. This is relevant because the DJI system has excellent range if you compare it to a 2.4 gig control link. But if you are used to using Crossfire at 500 milliwatts or 2 watts, you can go way further than the DJI link can, and maybe that's something you'd prefer. There is also a common misconception that the performance of the video link is in some way degraded if you are not using the DJI controller. I'm not sure where this is coming from, and I'm not 100% sure of the answer, but the people I have talked to tell me that the system is 100% fully functional whether you're using the DJI controller or not. So we've got DJI with the DJI controller, DJI with Crossfire controller, and DJI with 2.4 gig control. And then we've got premium analog video with Crossfire, premium analog video with 2.4 gig, mid-price analog, and budget analog. And the difference between these is the premium analog is like a Fat Shark HDO with rapid fire and a Unify HV, basically the most expensive stuff you could possibly put in the quad. Mid-price analog is like a typical $300 set of goggles, like the Sky Zone goggles, an AKK Ultimate VTX. This is probably more typical what most people are using. And then budget analog is just like the cheapest you could possibly get, like a box goggle, a $20 VTX, a $20 camera, just the cheapest you could get. And if we compare this line here, we can see that the total price of the DJI system is actually pretty comparable to the premium analog systems. Now, of course, that assumes that you have spent the most money you could possibly spend, and few people are actually going to be doing that. But for people who are saying that the DJI system is just preposterously priced, it's no more preposterously priced than a Fat Shark HDO, which some people also feel is preposterously priced, but not everybody. The point here is that if you're the kind of person who is in the market for a Fat Shark HDO and a rapid fire or an Orca goggle, then the DJI system is actually kind of in your budget. But if you're the kind of person who buys a Sky Zone or even cheaper, then yeah, the DJI system is a lot more expensive. This line here shows how much you have to spend for each additional quad that you have in your fleet. So for each additional quad, you got to buy another VTX, another receiver, another antenna, and so forth. And again, we see that compared to the premium analog systems, the difference of the DJI is it's only $180, and that's only a $30 premium compared to the premium analog. If we go to a more reasonable situation though, again, we see mid-price analog is $90 additional per quad, budget analog is $65 additional per quad, and of course the DJI vastly outpaces that. Here's some more sort of questions and misconceptions about the DJI system that I want to get out of the way. How does it work with existing analog systems? A lot of people were hoping that the next digital HD system would use frequency hopping technology. That's the same technology that our transmitters, our control transmitters, use to allow us to have 100, 150 different devices all active at the same time without ever having to worry about interference. The DJI system does not appear to use frequency hopping. In fact, it lists itself as having 20 megahertz wide channels, the same as our analog video transmitters. And in fact, the frequencies that are listed are very, very close to race band channels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This might be DJI's attempt to integrate gracefully with analog devices. If you've got a race and there's one guy on race band 1, 2, 3, and you want to put your DJI up, you could go to race band 4 and maybe not interfere. Until we actually have some field testing, we won't know for sure, and DJI actually recommends that you not use analog devices at the same time as this device. But looking at the channels, it seems like they would be able to interoperate our analog systems interfere with each other pretty badly too. So it seems like having the DJI guy up like on the highest channel and the analog guys on lower channels would give you enough spacing that maybe it would work. Another question that leads into is, will the DJI system work with our race timing systems, like the Immersion RC lap timing system that's used at so many major events and even smaller events? And the answer to that is maybe. In fact, Tony Cake from Immersion RC has suggested he thinks it might, but hasn't verified it yet. Another question people are asking is, does it integrate with Betaflight OSD? And in fact, when I first heard rumors about this system 6 months ago, I thought to myself, there's no way it's going to integrate with my OSD. And if it doesn't integrate with my OSD, I kind of don't want it because the Betaflight OSD is so freaking useful. The good news is that it does integrate with Betaflight OSD. And this is a really cool move. And I didn't expect DJI, because DJI is very proprietary. Why would they give an interface into an open source? And I thought, well, if this is really good, that could just be the end of Betaflight flight controllers. But the good news is they do integrate. You can connect your DJI Air unit up to your Betaflight, any flight controller that supports the MSP protocol, which is the standard protocol used ever since like multi-Wii years ago. Any flight controller that supports the MSP protocol can connect to the Air unit and interface with the Air unit to put information in the on-screen display. At this time, the only thing the Air unit supports is battery voltage, changing rates, changing PIDs, and changing filter settings. But the people who have talked to the DJI team tell me that DJI intends to implement the full Betaflight OSD in their Air unit eventually. Hopefully that comes true. Well, okay, now let's start talking about some of the sort of downsides and gotchas with this system. And the first big downside is the cost. Okay, we talked about that. The second big downside is the size and weight of the Air unit. Now, if you normally carry a GoPro at 75 to 100 grams, depending on which GoPro you've got, the Air unit could actually be a weight savings. You're gonna take the GoPro off, put the Air unit on, and you'll come out ahead. If you still intend to carry a GoPro, then it's gonna be a pretty big, it's like 30 or 40 grams additional weight. The other challenge is the size. Managing to fit it into a frame. It's just so freaking big. You may need to use larger standoffs or pick a frame with a particularly wide deck so you got somewhere to put it. These are challenges that will be overcome if the situation becomes possible. But if you have a very small and light frame, you're going to really struggle to get this thing in there. And by the way, that means that for those of you flying 3-inch and smaller, forget about it. This idea that digital is going to completely displace analog is a little bit misplaced when the biggest quads, the most popular quads in use today are these micros in the sub 250 gram or sub 300 gram category. There's just no way you could fit. Somebody will do it, but it's basically impossible to fit the Air unit and the camera onto these quads. So analog is going to be around for a while, at least in the micro realm. And that brings us to what I think might have been DJI's biggest misstep in this whole thing, and that is that the DJI goggles do not have a built-in analog receiver. DJI, why DJI? Why? Well, I know the answer. The answer is that DJI wants to push you. It's just like when Apple took the headphone jack off the iPhone, right? They're like, screw you, move into the future, you stupid bastards, buy our product. And we're like, no, we just want to plug our headphones in. No, forget it. You can't do it. And the problem with this is that if you have any analog transmitters in your fleet, like those micro quads, or like you just didn't want to pay $179 to convert over all your quads, you're still going to need an analog receiver. Now, the good news is that the DJI goggles do have an analog AV input. You do not need to have a whole second set of goggles with you in order to receive analog video signals, but you will need basically a ground station. You're going to be carrying a ground station around and using it. Why didn't they just put it in? That's the thing. They could have just instantly knocked so many. You don't want to pay $500 for a DJI goggles, but maybe you would. But if you also then have to have some kind of analog thing to carry around with you, how annoying is that? They could have put it in there and they didn't, and I really think it was a mistake. The DJI Air unit supports only up to like 17.5 volts, 18 volts, something. Basically supports 4S only. It doesn't support 5S or 6S. If you want to run this on a 5S or 6S quad, you're going to need to go get a 12 volt voltage regulator. Not the end of the world, but pretty freaking annoying. Why would they not make it 6S capable? I don't know. The fit of the DJI goggles is another area that really needs improvement. How could DJI not make a good fitting set of goggles? They have so much engineering might. It seems like they could have just buy a freaking pair of Fat Sharks, trace the profile of the freaking Fat Shark, and then freaking copy it. Okay, anyway, moving on. There's a lot of light leak at the edges. There's a lot of pressure on the bridge and temple. I wore them for about 20 minutes at a time, and they weren't painful, but boy, they weren't great. And by the way, if you wear glasses like me, you will have to stuff the glasses up underneath them, or you could try flying, depending on how bad your prescription is. You may be able to just take them off, but at this time, at least, there's no diopter insert or anything like that. So that is also going to be an issue for some people. Another gotcha that many of you have overlooked is that the range of the system is advertised as 4 miles. And DJI actually has, you might think, oh, well, that's just the best condition. But DJI actually has a pretty good track record of meeting or exceeding their advertised range for other products that they've released. Obviously, your mileage will vary, but your mileage will especially vary if you don't live in the United States, because in CE areas like Europe, are there any others? The advertised range is only 700 meters. I assume that's because there are output power restrictions in CE. And that is, if you buy the system and it goes 4 miles, well, that's pretty impressive. But if you buy the system, you might get more range out of your analog system than 700 meters, depending on the conditions. And I know many of you guys in the CE are not using the legal power limit. I know many of you guys are exceeding the 25 milliwatts, and that's how you're getting great range out of your analog systems. You're not going to be able to just crank the DJI system up. They're going to lock you out. So you may see a reduction in range if you live in Europe if you go to this system. And that brings us to the last part of this video, which is, I think, the single biggest reason why you would think twice about buying the DJI system. And it is the social aspect. Now, let's say you can swallow the cost and you're okay with the size and weight. You're ready to go on this system. If you only ever fly by yourself and you never fly with friends and you never go to events like the International Open or Rampage or any other flying events, then who cares? This doesn't affect you. I think that one of the best aspects of FPV culture is being out with your friends, whether you're tiny whooping around your house or whether you're flying freestyle at a bando or an office park or whether you're at a race, the ability to go, hey dude, I'm on channel 6, check out this power loop I'm about to do. Or when I was at I.O., the idea that every single one of us could put our goggles on, tune in to Thomas Bitamata and watch him win that race, just as if we were in his quad. That's massive. And with the DJI system, you're giving that up. Well, let me give you a little more detail. If you have the DJI goggles, obviously you can use an analog ground station to tune in to anybody you want, but nobody can tune into you unless they also have the DJI goggles, which they probably don't because they can't afford them. If you have the DJI goggles, you can spectate other people with the DJI system, but nobody can watch you. And I really feel like that is if you've never been to an event and had that experience, then I guess I can't explain to you how meaningful that is. But to me, it's really, really meaningful. And it's tough because DJI is right that this digital systems, I want them to be right that this is the future. And I want to live in a world where we just all have digital high definition systems and nobody has to think twice about it. But the reality is we're not there yet. We're not there. It's too expensive. It's too big. It's heavy. It's proprietary. And we need to have cross compatibility with analog. I just don't. How would you do that? Would you have a second analog transmitter built in that rebroadcasts a standard definition version of the same signal? You could do that. But they didn't. And that to me is probably one of the biggest reasons why. Not the money, not the size, because those might be overcome, but the social aspect. I think that's a big deal. One more thing before we close up the video, because I know you guys are going to fill up the comments with questions about this. Immediately after DJI announced this system, then Fat Shark announced that they have been working on their own digital high-definition system, calling it Byte Frost. They are going to be sending a system to reviewers in the next 2 weeks, and everybody's very encouraged because the Fat Shark system, they're talking about a price point of about $400, and it can be used with the HDMI input on your existing goggles, so you don't have to buy a whole nother set of goggles. That's very, very encouraging. I am hopeful, but cautiously hopeful. I've just seen too many of these systems have so much hype and so much promise and then underdeliver. And I want Fat Shark to succeed at this. I would rather use a system made by Fat Shark that's compatible with my existing goggles than a system made by DJI that is proprietary. And DJI is not invested in FPV culture the way that Fat Shark is. But I'm not willing to, people are out there saying, this is it, Fat Shark's done it. They haven't done anything yet. They haven't done anything until product is in people's hands, is tested and shown to be good. And so you want to know my opinion on that. I am hopeful, but cautiously hopeful, and we'll have to wait and see. DJI has delivered a product that is really, really freaking good, and they should get some credit for that. That's going to do it for this video. Once I get the system, I'll do all that other stuff that people are doing, or maybe I will do something with it. But until then, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much. If this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Welcome to the world of FPV. I imagine a lot of DJI folks are coming into the world of FPV going, what is this new thing? It's pretty freaking awesome. It's kind of like flying a Phantom, except way faster, and you crash way more, and you don't care when you crash. And it's pretty cool. So check out some FPV freestyle flying and stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy flying.